The universe never forces its way into your awareness. It moves like the wind, invisible yet felt by those who are still enough to notice its touch. The messages it sends are quiet, subtle, woven between the pauses of your life. It never shouts, it never demands. It simply whispers, and those whispers can only be heard by a mind that has learned the art of silence. We live in an age where noise has become the language of existence. Every sound, every distraction, every notification pulls you further from that inner stillness where truth resides. Yet, beyond the noise, there is a sacred rhythm guiding everything. And when you slow down enough, you begin to hear it. The whisper may come as a feeling you cannot explain, a gentle pull towards something unknown, a moment of déjà vu that reminds you that you've been here before in some unseen way. It might come as a repeating pattern, the same number appearing again and again, a dream that keeps returning, or a sudden intuition that feels truer than logic. The universe speaks softly because it trusts your awareness. It doesn't convince, it invites. It doesn't demand your obedience. It invites your participation in the unfolding of your path. But the problem is, we have become too impatient to hear whispers. We want clear answers, immediate signs, bold directions. We ask for the universe to show us our purpose, yet we ignore the quiet hints it leaves on our journey. We want clarity, but we are unwilling to enter the stillness that clarity requires. So we miss the subtle messages hidden in everyday life. The person who walks away, the opportunity that closes, the emotion that lingers without reason. All these are whispers, soft reminders that something is shifting, that something needs your attention. When life begins to feel repetitive, when the same lesson appears in different forms, it's not punishment, it's communication. The universe never repeats itself without meaning. It keeps sending the same experiences until awareness replaces resistance. That is the whisper behind every challenge. When you keep meeting the same kind of people, facing the same emotional walls, feeling the same dissatisfaction, it is life whispering. You haven't learned what this is trying to teach you yet, but instead of listening, most people grow louder in their own minds, judging, blaming, controlling. The whisper gets drowned beneath the noise of ego. To truly hear, you must become quiet inside. You must learn to listen with more than your ears. Listening in this sense is not about sound, it is about sensitivity. It is the ability to perceive energy, to feel the shift before it happens, to sense truth beyond words. The whisper of the universe often comes in moments when you are doing nothing, walking, breathing, sitting in nature, staring at the sky. It's the gentle knowing that rises without thought. You don't have to interpret it. You simply have to recognize its presence. When something within you says, "Not this," pay attention. When a path feels heavy even though it looks right, trust the whisper. The universe will never shout at you to leave a place, a relationship, or a situation. It will simply begin to drain your energy from it. Things will stop flowing, joy will fade, and you will feel an inner, quiet disconnection. That is not failure. That is guidance. Life is whispering that your energy belongs elsewhere, that your season has changed, that growth requires departure. The whisper is also found in contrast in what feels wrong, uncomfortable, or uncertain. The mind calls it confusion, but it's often a sacred reorientation. When something disturbs your peace, the universe isn't punishing you, it's redirecting you. The discomfort is a compass pointing toward alignment. But to understand it, you must learn to see beyond appearances. The universe doesn't speak in language, it speaks in experience. Each event, each encounter, each emotion is a message wrapped in form. You can only read it when you stop trying to control how it arrives. Most people think the signs from the universe should look magical, visions, symbols, miracles. But often the greatest sign is silence itself. When doors close, when answers don't come, when everything stands still, that stillness is a whisper. It says, wait. Something unseen is rearranging. In silence, the unseen forces of your destiny are preparing your next step. But impatience makes people move too soon, trying to force what is meant to unfold naturally. The whisper asks for trust, not effort. To hear the whisper, your mind must soften. Awareness is like a calm lake. The reflection of truth can only appear when the surface is still. The more turbulence there is, thoughts, emotions, noise, the more distorted the reflection becomes. So the practice is not to chase signs, but to cultivate stillness. Because when you are quiet, the whole universe becomes audible. Every moment begins to speak to you. The movement of the wind, the rhythm of breath, the gaze of a stranger, the timing of a coincidence. Life stops being random. It becomes a conversation. The universe whispers not because it is distant, but because it is intimate. It is not shouting from above. It is murmuring within you. It lives in the spaces between your thoughts, in the pauses between your actions. When you are fully present, you realize the whisper was never outside of you. It was your own higher awareness speaking in a softer tone. The guidance you seek is not hidden in the world. It's hidden beneath your constant thinking. Every silence you ignore is a missed message. Every intuition you dismiss is a lost opportunity for alignment. The whisper doesn't fade because the universe gives up on you. It fades because you drown it out with noise. But the moment you return to stillness, the whisper returns. It's patient. It's eternal. It waits for you to listen again. Because the universe has never stopped speaking. Only you have stopped hearing. There are moments in life when events unfold with such precision, such quiet symmetry, that logic struggles to explain them. You meet someone at the exact moment you need their wisdom. You think of a person you haven't spoken to in years, and they suddenly reach out. You dream of a symbol, and the next day it appears before your eyes. These are not coincidences. These are the hidden languages of the universe, subtle alignments woven into your path to remind you that existence is not random. The universe is not chaotic, it is deeply intelligent, and synchronicities are its way of speaking to those who have begun to awaken to its rhythm. Most people move through life seeing these moments as luck, chance, or accident. They shrug them off because their minds have been trained to separate the seen from the unseen, the logical from the spiritual. But nothing in this universe is separate. Everything vibrates in connection. The more you become aware, the more you realize that there are invisible threads linking your thoughts, emotions, and actions with the reality that unfolds before you. Synchronicity is not magic, it is alignment, the reflection of your inner state mirrored in the outer world. When your mind, heart, and energy move in harmony, life begins to flow differently. You start to notice patterns that once seemed invisible. You realize that the right people appear at the right time, not because of luck, but because your frequency attracts experiences that match it. The universe doesn't respond to your wishes, it responds to your vibration. When you are in balance, the outer world mirrors that harmony through synchronicity. The events that unfold are not forcing you forward. They are confirming that you are walking in tune with something greater. But to perceive this language, you must be present. The signs are always there, yet most people are too distracted to notice them. They rush through their days focused on problems, complaints, and noise, unaware that every delay, every encounter, every repetition carries meaning. The number that keeps appearing, the song that plays at the perfect moment, the stranger who says something that echoes your private thoughts. These are not coincidences. These are messages from the field of awareness that surrounds you. They are reminders that life is conscious and that you are a participant in that consciousness. Synchronicities arrive when your inner world begins to align with your purpose. The mind might not understand them, but the soul recognizes them immediately. There is a quiet familiarity, a deep resonance. A sense of this means something. That feeling is truth-touching awareness. It's the universe nodding at you saying, yes, keep going. But rather than being amazed by these experiences, the wiser path is to observe them with humility. To recognize that they are not there to inflate your ego or make you feel chosen. They are there to make you more aware. Awareness is the key that unlocks the meaning behind the moment. When you resist life, synchronicities fade. When you flow with it, they multiply. They act like gentle markers on a trail, showing that you are in the right energy, walking the right way. But they are not meant to replace your decisions or dictate your path. They are reminders that your choices and the universe are interconnected. You are not separate from creation, you are an expression of it. Every thought you think, every intention you hold, ripples into the vast field of consciousness, and the universe answers not in words, but in experiences that echo back your vibration. Consider how often you have dismissed signs because they seem too small or too strange. You call them coincidences because you cannot yet see the thread that connects them. But the universe works in layers. Sometimes a synchronicity today plants a seed that will bloom months or years later. The meaning may not be visible now, but everything aligns in divine timing. You are not supposed to understand instantly. You are supposed to stay aware, to trust that what is unfolding is part of a larger orchestration. The more you observe without forcing interpretation, the clearer the pattern becomes. Synchronicities often appear when you are at a crossroads, when your spirit is ready to grow but your mind hesitates. The outer world starts to mirror your inner conflict, sending signals to guide you forward. You might feel drawn to a book, a person, a place, a thought that keeps returning. None of these are random. They are the universe nudging you, showing you the next step, aligning circumstances to support your evolution. When you ignore these signs, you feel lost, disconnected, uncertain. But when you honor them, life begins to unfold with grace. To experience synchronicity more often, you must learn to live consciously. Pay attention to how your emotions shape your experiences. Notice what repeats, what resonates, what draws your focus. The universe is constantly speaking, but not in human language. It communicates through symbols, timing, and energy. The more still you become, the more fluent you become in this language. You begin to sense meaning beneath the surface of events, as if everything that happens is part of a larger dialogue between you and existence itself. Even challenges can be synchronistic. Sometimes the obstacles that arise are not barriers, but signals redirecting your attention. A missed opportunity can be protection. A delay can be preparation. A closed door can be a hidden blessing. Synchronicity doesn't always come wrapped in beauty. Sometimes it comes disguised as disruption. But even in that, there is intelligence. The universe arranges everything with purpose, even what your mind labels as chaos. Every soul has its unique frequency, and when that frequency aligns with truth, synchronicities become constant companions. They are confirmations from the unseen, not miracles to be chased, but evidence that you are attuned to the natural order of things. When you honor them, you strengthen your relationship with life itself. You begin to move with awareness rather than resistance. You begin to trust timing instead of forcing outcomes. The more you align with your inner truth, the more the outer world aligns with you. The right people, lessons, and experiences appear not by accident, but by resonance. Every synchronicity you experience is the universe whispering, you are connected. And when you truly understand that, every moment, every coincidence, every encounter becomes a sacred conversation between your soul and the infinite. Every emotion you feel carries a message. Yet, instead of listening, most people fight their emotions as if they are enemies. Resistance becomes their first response, a wall built against discomfort. But emotional resistance is not something to be conquered. It is something to be understood. It is not a weakness or flaw, but a sacred signal from within, showing you where your energy has stopped flowing. The emotions you resist the most are often the ones holding the keys to your growth. The human mind is trained to chase pleasure and avoid pain. When something hurts, we suppress it, distract ourselves, or rationalize it away. We tell ourselves we are fine, even when our inner world trembles with unease. But silence does not mean healing. Ignoring emotions doesn't make them disappear. It only buries them deeper, where they continue to influence your behavior in quiet, unseen ways. Emotional resistance is like blocking a river. The water may stop for a while, but the pressure keeps building until it finds another way to flow, often through unexpected outbursts, anxiety, fatigue, or confusion. Every time you feel anger, sadness, jealousy, or fear, there is energy moving through you, asking to be acknowledged. When you resist it, you interrupt that flow. You freeze life in motion. And when energy cannot move, it becomes tension. That tension doesn't come to harm you, it comes to awaken you. It is your inner world's way of saying, something here needs your attention. Yet, most people try to fix emotions with logic. They overthink instead of feeling. They analyze instead of observing. But emotions are not problems to be solved. They are signals to be understood. Resistance shows up in many forms. Sometimes it's a tightness in your chest when truth is near. Sometimes it's irritation toward a person who mirrors what you haven't healed. Sometimes it's the fatigue you feel before facing something unfamiliar. These sensations are not punishments. They are invitations. When you feel resistance, it means you are approaching the edge of transformation. Your old identity feels threatened, and your mind tries to pull you back to safety. But that safety is not peace. It is stagnation disguised as comfort. Growth and resistance always arrive together. You cannot expand without confronting the parts of yourself that prefer control over surrender. The moment you begin to change, the ego resists. It whispers fear. What if you fail? What if you lose what you have? What if you're not ready? But these are illusions born from attachment. Emotional resistance is not a sign to stop. It is a sign to stay aware. It means your system is adjusting to a higher frequency of awareness. When you face the emotion directly, without judgment, you dissolve its power. The most powerful way to deal with emotional resistance is not through force, but through presence. Sit with it. Feel the discomfort without running away. Let the emotion express itself fully, without interpretation. When you allow it to exist, it begins to soften. Emotions are like children. They act out when ignored, but calm down when seen. The moment you say, I see you, I feel you, and I accept your presence, the energy begins to release. What was once resistance becomes flow. What was once pain becomes clarity. Every emotion has intelligence. Anger is not just rage, it is a call for boundaries. Sadness is not weakness, it is an invitation to let go. Fear is not failure, it is the body's attempt to protect you while you grow beyond what it understands. When you resist these signals, you silence the wisdom beneath them. But when you listen, you find guidance. The universe doesn't always speak through synchronicities or intuition. Sometimes, it speaks through the language of your emotions, through the tightness in your heart, the restlessness in your body, the quiet ache that lingers without reason. Most people think healing means feeling good all the time, but true healing often feels heavy before it feels light. Emotional resistance surfaces when something hidden is ready to be released. That discomfort you feel is not regression, it's revelation. The body and mind are trying to show you where you are still holding on. The more you resist, the louder the signal becomes. It repeats through similar experiences, similar emotions, similar lessons, until you finally stop running and listen. When you face emotional resistance with awareness, it transforms into understanding. It reveals the root of your pain, the belief, memory, or attachment that keeps you trapped. Awareness acts like sunlight on ice. Slowly the frozen energy melts and flow returns. You begin to breathe differently, to respond differently, to see life through softer eyes. What once felt unbearable becomes a teacher. The resistance was never your enemy. It was the threshold you needed to cross to discover your own freedom. In relationships, emotional resistance often shows up when love demands honesty. You might feel defensive, withdrawn, or closed when someone reflects a truth you don't want to see. But that discomfort isn't caused by them. It's a signal of your inner resistance to vulnerability. Love will always expose what needs healing. It will bring forward emotions you thought you buried long ago. The lesson is not to suppress them, but to witness them without identification. You are not your emotion, you are the awareness observing it. The moment you realize this, resistance loses its control. There is a deep intelligence within emotional resistance. It knows when you're living out of alignment. It knows when your choices no longer reflect your truth. It knows when your body carries too much of what your heart hasn't released. The signal will come as anxiety, restlessness, or confusion, not to punish, but to redirect. Each wave of resistance is a reminder that life is asking you to move, to evolve, to release the weight of unexpressed emotion. When you stop resisting the signal, you begin to move in harmony with the current of life. Awareness does not mean you will never feel resistance again. It means you will recognize it for what it is. A sign that you are alive, growing, transforming. Emotional resistance is a sacred conversation between your higher self and your human self. One side wants expansion, the other wants familiarity. Between them lies the discomfort that pushes you toward awakening. The signal will keep returning until you finally stop running and allow yourself to feel what you have long avoided. Because within that feeling lies the very truth you have been searching for all along. Before every transformation, there is a silence. A stillness that feels empty, confusing, and sometimes painful. It is the space where energy withdraws, where what once felt alive begins to fade. The friendships that once filled you with joy lose their rhythm. The work that once inspired you begins to feel heavy. The passions that once defined you suddenly seem distant. This is not failure, nor is it loss. It is the natural law of transformation. Before new energy enters your life, the old energy must retreat. It is how the universe makes room for what is next. Every cycle of growth begins with an energetic shift. You can feel it before you can explain it. There's a subtle exhaustion that doesn't come from lack of sleep, but from overextension of the soul. You find yourself pulling away from what no longer resonates, even though nothing seems wrong on the surface. You lose interest in conversations, places, and habits that once made you feel alive. It feels like something inside you is dying, but in truth, something deeper is preparing to be born. The withdrawal of energy is the soul's way of reclaiming itself before renewal. This phase of withdrawal is sacred, yet it often feels uncomfortable. The mind, attached to routine and certainty, resists it. It asks questions like, why don't I care anymore? Why does everything feel dull? What's wrong with me? But nothing is wrong. You are simply outgrowing the vibration that once matched your past experiences. Energy never disappears, it transforms. What you feel as emptiness is actually recalibration. The universe rearranging your internal and external worlds to align with your next chapter. Think of a tree before spring. In winter, it appears lifeless, stripped bare of color and movement. Yet beneath the surface, something profound is happening. Energy has withdrawn inward to preserve itself, to prepare for the renewal that will come when conditions are right. The same happens to you. When your energy withdraws, it's because the cycle you were part of has completed. The people, ideas, and roles that once served your growth can no longer support your expansion. You are being guided inward into solitude, where the next layer of your purpose can unfold without interference. But modern life fears stillness. People interpret slowing down as losing direction and silence as emptiness. So they try to force energy where it no longer flows. They chase old passions, revive old relationships, cling to expired routines. Yet no matter how hard they try, the spark does not return. This is because the universe never blesses resistance. When energy has completed its purpose, no amount of effort can revive it. Trying to hold on to what is living only prolongs suffering. The wiser path is surrender, to honor what is fading without forcing it to stay. When energy withdraws, you are being called to listen, not to act. You are being invited to enter the quiet space between endings and beginnings. It is there that clarity is born. The absence of enthusiasm, the tiredness, the disconnection, these are not signs of failure. They are signs that you are being emptied so that something higher can fill you. In this state, you are learning the most difficult spiritual lesson, that growth is not always expansion, sometimes it is contraction. Sometimes you must lose your momentum to realign with meaning. Notice how your body mirrors this process. Fatigue sets in. You crave solitude. Your nervous system asks for gentleness. You are being rewired from within. The more you resist this withdrawal, the longer it lasts. The more you allow it, the faster the energy reorganizes itself. Rest is not avoidance, it is preparation. When your energy withdraws, it's because life is redirecting it toward what's next, even if you cannot yet see it. The same way the tide retreats before a powerful wave, your energy pulls back to gather strength for the surge that will come. There is a beauty in this in-between space, though at first it feels lonely. You begin to see who and what remains with you when your energy is no longer overflowing. Those who stay are those aligned with your essence, not just your momentum. The silence exposes authenticity. It shows you what was real connection and what was only vibration. It shows you the difference between those who love your energy and those who love your being. The withdrawal of energy is purification, a filtering of frequencies that no longer match your truth. When you allow this process, your perception deepens. You begin to notice that not everything that leaves is loss. Sometimes it is liberation. The universe does not take from you to punish you, it takes to lighten your load. You are being stripped of distractions, drained of attachments, emptied of false identities so that your authentic energy can return in a new form. The absence you feel is not a void. It is a womb. It holds potential, waiting for you to grow into who you were meant to become. Many people mistake this withdrawal for depression, but they are not the same. Depression closes life off, withdrawal opens it inward. Depression numbs, withdrawal sensitizes. When your energy retreats, you are being asked to pay attention, to feel, to realign. It is not darkness that consumes you, but light that has paused to teach you stillness. The challenge is to trust what you cannot see, to trust that the lack of energy is temporary, that renewal always follows retreat. In this stage, patience becomes a form of wisdom. You cannot rush what is being recalibrated. The mind wants to move, to achieve, to return to the familiar rhythm. But the soul asks for stillness. It wants you to listen to what is dying and what is waiting to be born. This is the quiet interval between who you were and who you are becoming. Every great transformation begins here, in the emptiness, in the pause, in the quiet that feels like nothing but is actually everything. The withdrawal of energy is the first whisper of change. It means the frequency that carried you this far has completed its service. It has taught you what it was meant to teach. Now, a new current is forming, a deeper rhythm preparing to enter. But for it to arrive, you must create space. You must honor the fatigue, the silence, the uncertainty. You must trust that when energy withdraws, it does not abandon you. It gathers strength in the unseen. And when the time is right, it will return in a form far greater, purer, and truer to who you are becoming. Silence is not emptiness. It is not absence. It is the purest form of presence. A language older than words, deeper than sound, and more revealing than any spoken truth. It is through silence that the universe communicates its most profound messages. Yet, in a world that glorifies noise, achievement, and constant expression, silence has become something people fear. They run from it because silence exposes everything they've tried to hide. The truth behind their emotions, the weight of their thoughts, the echoes of what they've refused to feel. But silence does not come to punish, it comes to reveal. It is the mirror in which your soul can finally see itself without distortion. When you strip away the noise of life, the opinions, distractions, conversations, and inner chatter, what remains is silence, and within that silence is truth. Every sound, every movement, every vibration exists within it, yet silence itself remains unchanged. That is why the universe speaks through it. Words can deceive, appearances can mislead, but silence carries no agenda. It does not argue or persuade, it simply reflects. When life becomes quiet, when nothing external gives you answers, it is not because the universe has stopped communicating. It is because it is speaking in its most honest voice. In silence, everything becomes transparent. You begin to see what is real and what is illusion. The noise of the world often drowns the subtle signals of intuition. It fills your mind with urgency, opinions, and distractions, making it impossible to hear the quiet pulse of wisdom that flows beneath. But when silence descends, when conversations stop, plans collapse, or isolation finds you, that is when the deeper dialogue begins. It is not the kind of silence that is merely the absence of sound. It is a silence that hums with awareness, that vibrates with truth, that makes you confront yourself in raw honesty. The universe often removes noise from your life before revealing direction. It will pull you into stillness so you can finally hear what has always been there. You may lose interest in social circles, withdraw from old patterns, or feel called to solitude. At first, this silence feels uncomfortable. The mind resists it because the ego thrives in noise. The ego needs movement to feel alive, needs distraction to maintain control. But silence dismantles that illusion. It strips away identity, comparison, and narrative, leaving only what is essential. What remains is the awareness that observes everything but clings to nothing. That awareness is the space through which the universe speaks. Silence is also the place where energy restores itself. Every sound, thought, and emotion consumes energy. Every conversation you have, every reaction you express releases vibration. Silence allows that vibration to settle. It resets your nervous system, balances your frequency, and clears the interference caused by overthinking. When you allow yourself to be silent, you don't stop the world, you synchronize with it. You begin to feel its natural rhythm, its pauses, its breath. That rhythm is the same rhythm that flows through the stars, the oceans, and your own heartbeat. It is the pulse of existence itself. In silence, you discover that understanding doesn't always require explanation. The deepest wisdom arrives wordlessly. When you sit in stillness, the mind may fight at first, filling you with restless thoughts. But if you keep observing without reacting, a subtle shift occurs. The thoughts lose their grip, and what remains is clarity. Not because you figured things out, but because silence dissolved the unnecessary. The universe's honesty is not expressed through reason, it is revealed through awareness. When you become still, the truth rises naturally, without force. Every teacher, every philosopher, every seeker has reached a point where words fail, where silence becomes the only authentic answer. This is because silence holds the totality of understanding that language can only point toward. When you sit in silence long enough, you begin to hear things that cannot be heard through sound. The movement of your breath, the vibration of your heart, the subtle dialogue between your spirit and the infinite. In that space, you realize that silence is not external, it lives within you. It is not something you enter, it is something you remember. The universe uses silence as both message and messenger. It speaks to you through the pauses between thoughts, the moments before decisions, the stillness before transformation. It is in those quiet moments that intuition whispers its clearest truths. You will feel it as a calm knowing, not a thought but a recognition. The problem is that most people mistrust silence because they are conditioned to associate it with absence, the absence of validation, activity, or connection. But silence is fullness, not lack. It holds everything in its unseen form, waiting for you to attune your awareness to it. When life forces you into silence, through solitude, heartbreak, or uncertainty, it is guiding you back to alignment. It removes the distractions so that your inner voice can finally be heard. That is why silence often comes before great change. The mind panics, thinking something has gone wrong, but the soul understands that something is being prepared. In the quiet, your energy resets, your emotions balance, and your perception deepens. You begin to hear not only what is being said, but what is being meant. You begin to feel the guidance that words could never convey. There is also a sacred humility in silence. It teaches you to listen without the need to respond, to observe without the need to label, to exist without the need to control. It shows you that wisdom is not loud, it is patient. Power is not in speaking more, but in understanding deeper. The great teachers of life never raised their voices to be heard. They lowered their energy to be felt. The universe mirrors this truth. Its most profound lessons are never shouted. They are whispered through silence. When you learn to be comfortable with silence, you stop seeking validation from noise. You no longer chase explanations for everything that happens. You begin to trust the rhythm of life, knowing that silence is not emptiness but presence. You realize that the universe does not owe you words because truth is already written in the stillness between moments. In silence, there is no past or future, only now. And in that now, everything you need to understand is already there, waiting for you to listen not with your ears, but with your awareness. The universe does not ask for worship, belief, or blind devotion. It does not demand rituals, sacrifices, or promises. What it seeks quietly and continuously is your awareness, the simple, sacred act of being fully present with what is. Awareness is the highest form of acceptance because it allows life to be seen without resistance. When you are aware, you stop fighting reality. You no longer try to change every experience into something more comfortable or more familiar. You begin to see that everything unfolding before you, pleasant or painful, is a reflection of the greater intelligence moving through existence. The universe does not need you to agree with it. It only needs you to see it. Awareness is not something you achieve. It is something you remember. It has always been there, beneath layers of thought, judgment, and conditioning. Every moment you are distracted by noise, by comparison, by fear, you drift further from that still center. Yet, even in distraction, awareness watches. It observes the movement of your thoughts, the rhythm of your emotions, the rise and fall of your life. You do not have to earn awareness, you only have to return to it. It is the quiet witness within you, the space that sees but does not react, that observes but does not interfere. That witnessing presence is the universe looking at itself through your eyes. Most people misunderstand acceptance. They think it means surrendering to circumstances or giving up the desire to grow. But true acceptance is not passivity, it is clarity. It is the recognition that life unfolds through contrast and that every experience, joy, loss, confusion, revelation, serves the evolution of consciousness. When you are aware, you no longer see experiences as good or bad. You see them as expressions of energy, as movements of the same vast intelligence taking different forms. Awareness turns suffering into understanding, chaos into rhythm, and resistance into peace. When awareness is absent, the mind becomes the master. It categorizes, labels, and judges everything. It separates life into fragments, right and wrong, success and failure, love and loss. This fragmentation creates conflict, and conflict creates suffering. But when awareness returns, the illusion of separation dissolves. You realize that everything is connected, that your emotions, your thoughts, your surroundings, even the people who challenge you, are part of a single continuous flow. Awareness doesn't change the outer world, it changes how you experience it. It removes the veil of illusion that makes you believe you are separate from the universe that created you. Awareness is pure acceptance because it does not choose sides. It does not cling to what feels good or reject what feels difficult. It simply witnesses everything as part of the whole. The moment you bring awareness to pain, pain begins to transform. The moment you bring awareness to fear, fear begins to dissolve. The energy that was trapped in resistance is released back into flow. That is why awareness is so powerful. It does not fight darkness, it illuminates it. The light of awareness doesn't need to destroy the shadow. It simply reveals what the shadow is made of. Awareness is the bridge between the human and the divine. The human part of you lives in time, in movement, in story. The divine part of you lives in stillness, in being, in presence. Awareness allows both to exist in harmony. It is what lets you experience the full range of human emotion without losing your center. When you are aware, you can feel sadness without becoming sadness. Experience anger without being consumed by it. Observe confusion without being trapped in it. Awareness gives you space between you and your reactions, between your being and your becoming. In that space, peace naturally arises. The universe moves through cycles: creation, destruction, rebirth. Awareness allows you to flow with those cycles instead of resisting them. When something ends, awareness helps you see it as part of transformation. When something begins, awareness helps you welcome it without fear. Every ending and beginning are equally sacred to awareness because both belong to the same continuum of existence. When you stop resisting what leaves and stop clinging to what arrives, you begin to move in rhythm with life. That rhythm is the essence of harmony, and harmony is the language of the universe. To live with awareness is to live awake. It means you no longer sleepwalk through your experiences, reacting to life unconsciously. You notice the details, the breath entering your lungs, the sound of the wind, the emotion behind a word. You begin to live in direct contact with reality, not through the filters of your mind. Awareness sharpens your perception until even the smallest moment becomes meaningful. Drinking water, walking, breathing, listening, everything becomes sacred when seen through awareness. You realize that enlightenment is not found in distant mountains or holy texts. It is found in the simple act of being fully here. When you resist awareness, you create separation from the present moment. You judge what is happening, you compare it to what you wanted, and you suffer in the gap between the two. The universe doesn't punish you for this, it simply reflects your state of being. The outer world becomes chaotic when the inner world is divided. But when awareness returns, the external chaos begins to settle because you are no longer adding to it through resistance. The more aware you are, the more life begins to mirror peace back to you. Awareness is not something you use, it is what you are. It is the foundation beneath every thought and emotion. It does not change with circumstance. It remains untouched by praise or blame, success or failure. When you rest in awareness, you find a stillness that nothing external can disturb. You may move through the noise of the world, but within you, there is quiet. That quiet is not empty. It is full of intelligence, presence, and clarity. It is the same silence from which all creation arises. The universe does not ask for perfection. It asks for awareness. It does not demand that you never fall, but that you notice when you have. It does not require you to control your emotions, but to observe them without judgment. Awareness is the highest form of reverence because it honors life as it is. To be aware is to say, I see what is happening, and I remain present with it. That is the only acceptance the universe ever seeks, the awareness that allows life to be experienced, understood, and ultimately transcended through presence itself.